podcast where we compare theme park offerings from coast to coast. We don't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we'll try. I'm Alli, and as always, I am joined by the wonderful CJ. How are you, CJ?
Hey, I am doing great. How are you?
I am also doing great. We are on the tail end of a 3-day weekend here, so I'm, just kind of like, 3-day weekend means a 4-day work week. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, CJ,
Yes,
do you want to go for a drive?
I am always down for a drive. Where are we going?
We are going to Ornament Valley.
Oh,
We'll also take a pit stop at World Discovery. How does that sound?
sounds like a blast to me.
All right. Well, I hope our listeners are ready for this drive as well, because that's where we're taking everybody. Surprise road trip!
Woo!
Woo! So today we are talking about Test Track at Epcot and Radiator Springs Racers at California Adventure.
Yes, fun rides. I like both those rides.
Yeah, they're both really good rides, and I feel like I have an answer for which one is my winner, but this is a tough showdown because they're both
Yeah,
really, really good.
yes, I agree.
So, CJ, let's kick things off. Why don't you tell us when Test Track opened?
Are we going to talk about our favorite things?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was not looking at the outline. Okay, so CJ, you're still kicking us off with your favorite thing about Test Track.
I love how fast it goes when those doors open and you're just going fast. That is so much fun. I love
You
that
just
part.
zoom in.
Just zoom in.
Yeah. For me, I have really good memories of us going on Test Track. So I don't remember a lot of our trip from 2000, but I do remember Dad accidentally ate something he was allergic to, and so he had to get off and use a bathroom, and we were just like, let's just go on Test Track. We're right here. So yeah,
Okay.
that's like a horrible thing for Dad, but it was really fun for us. And we also were given the choice fireworks or Test Track, and we chose
Uh-huh.
Test Track over fireworks, and that was really fun.
Yes, I would still choose Test Track over fireworks if given the option.
Yeah, so we had some good times on Test Track in 2000, and also for a long time, it was the best e-ticket in Epcot. It's now the number 2 e-ticket in Epcot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
I would agree with that.
what about Radiator Springs Racers, CJ?
My favorite part is the scenery. I think looking at the attraction from outside the attraction, it's just visually stunning.
Yeah, the forced perspective works really, really well until a bird lands on it. But the forced perspective, for the most part, works really, really well, and it's really gorgeous.
Yeah, one of our favorite things to do when we lived in California was we'd go to Ghirardelli and then bring it to Flo's on that back patio
Mm-hmm.
and eat our ice cream and sit and watch the cars go by and listen to the music and the zoom of the cars. And it's just like you're literally transported to a different world. They do such a good job over there.
Yeah, it's the whole land is just really well done.
Yes. So, what's your favorite thing about Radiator Springs Racers?
The variety. So, for those of you who don't know, there are 2 different paths you can take, and it's randomized. I suppose nothing is truly randomized, but you can go on it 5 times in a row and get the same thing 5 times and never see the other one. But there's 2 different paths that you can take, and then are you gonna win? Are you gonna lose? You don't know because it's randomized. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that it's a different experience when you go on it each time.
Yeah. It gives it repeatability, which is a good thing for Disney rides for sure.
Yes. All right, so now, when did Test Track open, CJ?
So there's been 2 versions of Test Track. So the original one soft opened December 19th, 1998, and it had its full opening a few months later, March 17th, 1999. That version closed April 15th, 2012, and it reopened December 6th, 2012.
And Cars Land also has some 2012. So Radiator Springs Racers opened on June 15th, 2012. Do you remember that day, CJ?
I do. I
Do you remember
do.
how long? Do you remember how long we waited in line?
Like 3 or 4 hours.
It was 4 hours. Yeah, we waited
Oh
4 hours in
gosh.
line for Radiator Springs Racers on opening day with
Sure
Katie and
did.
Matt.
Sure did. Hi, Katie. Hi, Matt.
We brought Mad Libs to do in line. That was a good call.
Yes, it was a good call. It kept us all entertained.
Yeah. It was worth it. It was fun.
Yes, yes.
So, time for some fun facts. CJ, let's kick things off with Test Track.
You know what I just realized? I'm
What's
looking at the
that?
opening dates. The Radiator Springs Racers opened before this version of Test Track.
Interesting.
That seems weird to me because Test Track seems like so old, you know?
Well, there was a Test Track open well before Radiator Springs Racers, so
Yeah, true. Okay, onwards to fun facts. So,
onwards.
when Test Track first opened, it replaced a ride called World of Motion that closed in 1996. The top speed for Test Track is 64.9 miles per hour. The original sponsor of Test Track was GM, and now it's just Chevy. The old ride, World of Motion, was about the history of transportation from like caveman times through modern times. And when Test Track was announced, it was originally supposed to open in May 1997, but there were a lot of problems and it was delayed by almost 2 years. So
Oh, wow.
it was like pretty much like a Tron situation, from what I understand.
Only without the
Um,
global pandemic?
right. But some of the problems that they encountered when they were constructing it were the tires that they had couldn't handle the course and the speed. And, you know, that's a problem when you're
Yeah.
carrying thousands of guests a day. You need to have reliable tires. So once they fixed that, they were working on capacity issues. Basically, you know, Disney has statisticians and people trying to figure out how do we make this ride the most efficient possible in terms of numbers of guests through the gate. So they realized that 29 ride vehicles would be needed to get it to its most efficient point, but the software could only handle operating a maximum of 6 cars. So
Oh,
that's quite a bit of a discrepancy there. And as they were just working through the software issues, there were just so many bugs that popped up. So they ended up like redoing the software essentially. But obviously it got opened and everything was good. And this was one of the first rides to have a dedicated single rider line. And I use that all the time. And it's a really great way to get on that ride without waiting very long. So while the original ride was closed to have its refurbishment into the Test Track we know today, they had this musical show in front of the blocked off Test Track called Test Track All Stars. And I meant to look it up and watch it because it sounds really cheesy, and I just wanted to see if it's as cheesy as it sounds. So I will watch it and report back next episode. There is a corporate lounge for GM employees. A lot of the Epcot attractions have some sort of corporate lounge. So all you need is your General Motors identification card, your employee ID to access it. And up there you can find free fountain drinks, a really awesome view of the park, and you can also design your ride vehicle in there instead of in the line. I've also heard through the grapevine that you're given lightning lane entry to the ride. I don't know if that's true.
that's what the internet said when I was doing your research for this part.
Yeah, I have a friend of like a not a close friend, but somebody I know who has gotten to go up there, and I swear she's talked about getting lightning lane access. But I don't know. If any GM employees are out there, please contact us and take us up there.
I know someone, not GM, but he worked for Siemens, and when
Oh
they
yeah,
yeah, they did a trip to Epcot, and I'm pretty sure I know they got into the lounge at
Spaceship Earth.
yeah, that's the one, Spaceship Earth, but I don't remember if they got fast passes because this was pre Lightning Lane. So fast passes were still a thing. I don't remember if they got fast passes. I think they did, or they were just able to like pop on for Spaceship Earth. Obviously not for Test Track, but
Right,
yeah.
right. Okay, well, if anybody knows, contact us and let us know. The full length of Test Track is like just less than a mile from start to finish. And I found this D23 article from when the ride was like maybe a year old, and it had some interesting tidbits in there. So here's what I found. They talked to Imagineers who talked about how along your journey on the ride, guests will encounter lightning, fog, lasers, and an entire futuristic cityscape that supports the multi-sensory ride experience. So I know there's lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Fog sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. And if the fog doesn't work, you're not getting the lasers. So, I know what
Optimism.
yeah, I know what futuristic cityscape they're talking about. There's this very specific moment in the ride where you see this cityscape, and it kind of reminds me of, oh, what's it called? Progress City, the model of Progress City. It looks like a smaller version of that. But turns out it's kind of like an accidental tribute to the original World of Motion attraction. It was designed by a guy named Mike Overman, who was the art director. He did not get to go on the original World of Motion, but the cityscape he designed for that section of the ride bears like a crazy resemblance to the original World of Motion Center Core finale. So, kind of a cool Easter egg. And then also, if you are looking for Easter eggs in the ride, you'll see a sign for Motion Drive, General Motor Way, and Chevy Lane. So Motion Drive is referencing World of Motion. General Motor Way is referencing the original sponsor, GM. And Chevy Lane is referencing the current sponsor, Chevrolet. And then, you know how Epcot has all those pavilion logos?
Mm-hmm.
The World of Motion logo is hidden all over the place in the attraction. So watch out
Okay.
for it. Like one that I know for sure that I've seen is there's like a snowflake or something on a sign or like to warn you about ice ahead. And it's made up of like 6 or 7 different World of Motion icons
Cute.
all arranged like that. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
So I have a fun fact about Test Track, and it may be more in the realm of rumor than fun fact. But CJ, there's a part in Test Track where there's a truck. Do you know who drives the truck?
Is it a crash test dummy?
It is not a crash test dummy.
Oh, no.
It's Lyndon B. Johnson.
What?
It's Lyndon B. Johnson.
Explain.
Oh, let me see. Test Track truck driver. It's a cardboard cutout of Lyndon B. Johnson.
Okay, why?
I don't know why. It just is.
And how did you find this out?
I learned this from listening to a different podcast that had an episode about Test Track. And I've just Googled it up, and there is a Disboards discussion about it that's like saying, yeah, it's LBJ.
Okay, now my life goal is to get walked off that attraction right next to the truck and peek inside. If there are any Test Track cast members listening that can confirm or deny this, please reach out because this has piqued my curiosity.
Yeah, this could be one of those just crazy rumors, but I did hear it from another podcast, and it was confirmed on Disboards. It was somebody who said, I saw it on a ride evac, and another person who said it was in the Disney Magic mobile game as a trivia question.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Okay. All right.
yeah, that's your weird fact of the
That is a
day.
very weird fact.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to Radiator Springs Racers facts?
Yeah, let's talk about Radiator Springs Racers. So, Test Track walked so Radiator Springs Racers could run. That's because the Radiator Springs Racers features the third generation of Test Track car technology. It was also the most expensive ride at the Disneyland Resort and one of the most expensive theme park rides in the entire world. It cost over $200 million to build, which was about 18% of the budget for the DCA expansion in 2012. It's a lot of money. The attraction covers 6 acres and is the largest by acreage at the Disneyland Resort. So it is massive. This is taken from the Disneyland website. Car buffs may notice the 6 mountain peaks look like tail fins of classic Cadillac models from 1957 to 1962. And there are informative signs along like the walking path that point out like the 57, the 58, like you would see at a national park, like here's what you're looking at type of thing. The mountains are inspired by the iconic Cadillac Ranch public art installation along Route 66 near Amarillo, Texas. Haven't been. The tallest peak is 125 feet. The ride contains 23 audio animatronics. Each car has a different license plate, some of which include the initials of Imagineers who worked on the attraction. Each vehicle is estimated to cover 36,000 miles per year, which is the equivalent of 14 trips down Route 66. And the steepest bank is 45 degrees.
Okay. Wow.
I looked because I heard you looking it up, but I could not find how long you cover in a single trip. You know, you said test track is just under a mile. I couldn't find information on that for Radiator Springs Racers, but now I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I guess, never mind. I was going to suggest a math problem to figure it out, and then I realized the ride like slows down and then goes faster, so that wouldn't work. It's not like a consistent
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be terrifying.
Yes, it would. Okay, let's talk about where these are located.
Yes.
So Epcot has gone through a change in their names of lands, and it still confuses me. It's in World Discovery, which was once known as Future World, but it's near the Odyssey Pavilion and the Creation Shop and Mission Space, and there's also a really great playground right there, so if your kids aren't tall enough to on the ride, there's a playground.
Perfect. Radiator Springs Racers is, of course, in Cars Land. It's in the back near Flo's V8 Cafe, Luigi's Rollicking Roadsters, and the fire station.
Okay, it's time for the cue and exterior. Sorry, I thought you were going to say it.
I was waiting for you to say it.
You're the host. Okay, we're moving on to the queue and exterior of these attractions. So, Test Track is like when you walk up, there's this humongous canopy, essentially, with like exposed metal beams and stuff. But the canopy got ripped off during Hurricane Ian.
Oh.
And I believe it has since been replaced because that was like 6 months ago. And then I'm picturing like, because the park was closed for like a day or two, I'm picturing like a giant canopy like flying across Epcot. Like where did they find it, you know? Or did it just get stuck on one of the poles or something? I don't know. But when people say like they don't need to close the parks for hurricanes, yes they do. This is why. Can you imagine a giant canopy flying through crowds of people in the rain and the wind? No. Dangerous.
That's terrifying.
Yes, it is terrifying. Anyways, so out front, there's a car model with the Test Track sign. It's a really great photo op. And for some reason, there's never a PhotoPass person there. And I feel like it's a great spot to take a picture. Anyways, so you'll see standby entrance on far right, lightning lane in the middle, and single rider on the far left. And lightning lane and single riders share the same door to get in. They're just separated with chains or whatever. But standby has its own door. So if you go through standby, you walk by a concept car and several displays of concept vehicles on a smaller scale. And there's these little video displays of those concept vehicles driving around and stuff like that. There's on the wall, you'll see concept art with line, clay, math, emotion, basically the elements that car designers put in when they're designing a car. Then there's some concept art for the capabilities you'll be testing on your car that you get to design, which we'll talk about in a minute. And at the very end, you walk by a display of car modeler people, employees, and a video display of people talking about designing cars. And then you're grouped in a line at the design studio. Once you enter the design studio, you scan your Magic Band or your park ticket, or I guess you could use your phone now, and you get to design your car for like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. But there's a variety of things that you can do, and you can play around with the settings to try to get those capabilities to wherever you want them to be. And then you head out the doors, up the ramp, around a corner, past one final concept car, and you're grouped into a vehicle. Before you board the vehicle, you tap your magic band or card or whatever it is that you saved your car onto so it loads onto the vehicle before you board. And then you board and you go.
It sounds like fun.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about the design studio. So last time I went on, I tried to design the most exaggerated car that I possibly could. So, you can basically draw the outline of like the silhouette of what you want your car to be. And the studio will go, okay, that's a really great idea, but we're going to streamline that to make it a little bit more realistic so it's not just like a mountain on wheels, basically. So they do correct you from over exaggerating things in a sense. Which, I mean, disappointing, but I get it. So, Radiator Springs Racers. The attractions marquee is mounted on a large archway near the Radiator Springs Courthouse. The queue itself comes from the Cars tune Time Traveled Mater, which tells the story of Stanley and how he founded the town of Radiator Springs. You pass by the famous Radiator Spring and other elements of Stanley's Oasis, including the amazing oil bottle house and Stanley's Cap and Tap. You go up a ramp and enter the Comfy Caverns Motor Court, where you board a convertible race car and start the ride. What can you hear while you're in the queue, CJ?
So the music for Test Track, I think, is pretty iconic. Like I can hear it in my mind. I have I have all these Disney songs on a playlist in my car, and when it comes up, I'm like, "Oh, Devin, do you know that song?" And he's like, "Isn't it from Test Track?" So like even he can recognize it. But basically, Paul Leonard Morgan is the composer, and it's kind of like upbeat and futuristic and exciting. Like it has a pretty fast tempo, but they designed background music, cue music, music for the design studio. Like there's a lot of different elements of this ride and they all have a similar musical theme. So when you're going through the attraction from start to finish, just listen for that. And to me, it sounds pretty cool. And of course, they layered dialogue on top of it during parts of the queue.
If Test Track is the future, then Radiator Springs Racers is the past. You have old-timey music that's all relating to automobiles or Route 66 or travel in some sort of way. So it's really kind of taking you back in time to the founding of Radiator Springs Racers, while you're in the queue at least.
Yeah. So the ride vehicles are pretty much the same. I mean, there's 2 rows of seats with 3 seats in each row, so 6 people per ride, which is why single rider works so great on Test Track and Radiator Springs Racers. Like if you have a party of 2 or party of 4, they fill those seats super fast. Mm-hmm. Test Track tops out at 64.9 miles per hour. It's very close, 65.
Yeah. Radiator Springs Racers tops out at 40 miles an hour. The cars come in 8 different colors, and they have eyes and mouths just like the cars and cars do.
The cars and cars.
The cars and cars.
Yes.
Cars. Do you remember?
Yes. We don't need to go into it. Let's move on to the storyline and the route. Okay, the original Test Track had all these crash test dummies all over the place. I didn't really research it too much. That's just from my memory and watching it on YouTube occasionally. But the current Test Track, you design your own car in the queue, like I talked about, and then you board a sim car and go through the digital testing ground of the sim track, where you're seeing how your car does in a series of 4 tests. So it's testing your capability, efficiency, responsiveness, and power. Capability tests like your side-to-side handling, as well as acceleration, deceleration. Efficiency tests like the greenness of your car, which that test is like the most boring of all the tests. They like spray fog and lasers at you and you watch yourself go by slowly in a mirror. Responsiveness is your brake check, and power is like the fast part outside, the best part. And then after you go through each test, there's a video monitor to show you which car got like first, second, or third place.
The description for Radiator Springs Racers is pulled from the Disneyland website. So here's my Disneyland voice. Tour Ornament Valley and arrive in Radiator Springs, the cutest little town in Carburetor County, where the movie Cars springs to life. As you prep for the big race, all the locals show up to help. Mater, Lightning McQueen, Doc Hudson, Sally, Luigi, Guido? Guido? Guido! Am I saying that right? Guido, Mac, and Ramona.
Guido.
Guido. Mac and Ramon are all rooting for you. Take a quick spin into either Luigi's Casa delle Tires or Ramon's House of Body Art to get a racing makeover. Then hit the road. Ready? Get set? Go! Meet your friendly competition at the starting line and get ready to race for first place. Zip over hills, zoom around high banked turns, and cruise down camelback straightaways past spectacular red rock formations. Even if your car comes in second, this is one race where everyone's a winner.
Yeah, to me, there are like particular scenes that stand out in that ride. The cow tipping scene or tractor tipping.
Tractor
Yeah.
tipping. And
Yeah.
then what's the angry tractor's name?
Frank.
Frank comes to get you.
Don't let Frank catch you. Honk!
Yep.
And then you honk at the car or the tractor. Yeah, and then when it splits into two, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. What's your preference, CJ? New tires or body art?
New tires, I think, because your car like lifts up and down. You can see while they're working on the tires. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's my favorite too. The body art, you just kind of get spritzed a little bit, and it's not even like a cool mist. It's just like air.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
When this ride first opened, I kid you not, like the first 10 or 11 times we went on it, Devin only got paint. And then he finally got tires one day. He's like, I got tires. He was so excited. All right, let's talk about the exit queue.
Yes.
At Test Track, you scan for PhotoPass, and then there's all these interactive areas. This is actually a pretty big exit queue area because there's like little games that you can play. Like you can scan your Magic Band to see how your car stacks up to other cars that were created that day. And then you can scan your Magic Band at a separate spot, and there's kind of like a little slot car game that you can play with your car. There's photo opportunities. There's cars for sale. I don't know if they're actually for sale, but they're like legit Chevy cars sitting in there, and you can look at the specs on them, and there's like Chevy employees there. Maybe they're there to sell you a car. I don't know. And there's a gift shop, and then you're out the exit. But like if you need to do rider swap or something like that, like go inside the exit area because there are benches to sit on. It's air conditioned. It's cool. It's quiet. So like if you're nursing or bottle feeding or something, it's a great spot to do that.
You know, that's a souvenir that I want from Disney World, CJ. A brand new
car.
Yeah.
I went to Disney World and I brought back a car.
At Radiator Springs Racers, you exit to the left and you can see some of the hotel room suites / garages at the Comfy Caverns motor court. You go upstairs into the photo finish area. Then back down some stairs, you've crossed over the boarding area while you were in the photo zone. You kind of meander, wind down some ramps. You can see the ride going by around you as you're going down these ramps, under a pair of bridges, past all the people still waiting in line, and out into Radiator Springs.
The height requirement for each of them is 40 inches.
They're both open during fireworks / World of Color.
Rain. Test Track is more than likely going to be closed just because it rains like crazy. Radiator Springs Racers, I've seen it both open and closed during rain, so I think it depends on the severity.
Yeah, it was listed. I have a bookmark here. It's what to do when it rains at Disneyland, and it was not listed as one of the attractions that will close during rain. So
yeah, I think it's sometimes. I think it just depends.
Test Track has Lightning Lane. Radiator Springs Racers is on individual Lightning Lane at this time.
And they both have single rider.
So now we have all the facts laid out, and it is time for the final showdown. Which car will race to victory? CJ, your opinion gets to come first.
So I was thinking about this from a couple different perspectives. What is a more fun experience? And what is better for where it's at in the park? And I'm very, very torn because on the one hand, we've got Test Track, which goes really fast, and that's really fun. And you also get to play a part in designing your car. And No, it doesn't have an impact on the outcome of the ride experience, but I think it speaks to part of the spirit of Epcot, I guess, where like they're encouraging you to try new things and explore new things. So I like that it has that nod to what Epcot's all about. Then we have Radiator Springs Racers, which is extremely well themed. It's a great story. The thrill is kind of there. It's not as fast, but it does have those banked turns, which makes it really fun, and a lot of like bunny hop hills kind of in the
Mm-hmm.
middle. And the interior is really cool too. So I'm really torn. I want to hear your thoughts first. See if you can persuade me one way or the other.
Okay. Well, my thoughts are for Radiator Springs Racers. So when you look at Test Track, it's a fun ride, but it's boring as heck until you get to the outside part when you're going real fast. Radiator Springs Racers is engaging the whole time you're on it.
Okay, I think you sold me, Radiator Springs Racers. Because you're right. I was thinking about it like besides going fast, like what does it have going for it? The inside looks cool, but it's kind of lacking on story. And then when you're outside, you're like racing around backstage areas for part of it.
Yeah.
And it's like they could have tried a little harder to make it more engaging somehow. Yeah, I'm going to go with Radiator Springs Racers. You're right.
Yeah. See, with Test Track, I get what they're going for, and I think they might have gone like too true to the original of what they were trying to do because it's all about testing cars, and that happens in very boring, sterile environments.
Yeah.
And that translated, unfortunately, really accurately to the ride, which made it visually dreadfully boring.
Yeah. Yeah. They could definitely do more with the story for sure.
That said, it is still one of my top 3 favorite rides in Epcot. I do love that ride. I will go on it every single time that I can. So I like to go
Well,
fast.
okay, you said top three. What are your top three in Epcot?
So Test Track, obviously we've stated. Cosmic Rewind because it's Cosmic Rewind. You've been on it, and
Hmm.
I really like the Three Caballeros Grand Fiesta
That's
too.
right. That's right. I forgot about that. You really like that ride for some reason.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Okay.
I just
It
okay,
is funny,
okay.
but I wouldn't put it as like top three.
I have to go on that ride every time.
I know.
I always think it's funny when at the end of that ride when they're like, "Hey, wherever 1, 2, and 3 go, we're always together." And I'm like, "But this entire ride was 2 of you trying to find Donald, so you weren't always together."
I just like the part where they're beating Pinata Donald. And like, this is so morbid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Ah,
Well, we'll get to that in a future episode, I think.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So that wraps it up for our drive from World Discovery to Ornament Valley. CJ, do you have any final thoughts on these attractions that you want to include?
They're both really fun rides, and you should do both of them. You know, if you're a Disneyland person, don't say I don't need to go on Test Track, and vice versa. If you're a Walt Disney World person,
Right.
they're very different experiences. So definitely take the time to go do each of them.
Agreed. Agreed on both. So that wraps it up for this episode. If you've been watching us on YouTube, thanks. If you haven't been watching us on YouTube, but you've been listening to us on your podcasting platform of choice, also thanks. We appreciate you. You can find us on YouTube, Park2Park Pod with the number 2. If you want to reach out to us, the best way to do so is on Instagram at Park2Park Pod. You can also send us an email, park2parkpod@gmail.com. All of those use the number 2. Let us know your opinions. And if you want to be on the show, let us know. If you've seen LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, on Test Track, we want to know. I'm so curious to know if this is just a
Yeah,
wild rumor or if it's actually true.
I'm also very curious, and also if you are a GM employee and can get us in the lounge, please reach out.
Yeah, let us know. Kind new best friend.
Yeah. New best
So CJ,
friend.
what is our next episode?
Well, I have a love-hate relationship with these rides that we'll be talking about on the next episode. Like, they're fun, but I don't really like being wet. So we are going to go on Grizzly River Run and Cali River Rapids.
All
You know,
right.
water raft rides. We've talked about Splash Mountain log ride, but now we're going over to the raft water ride.
The other thing that will be on that episode is CJ's review of Test Track All-Stars, the show
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the temporary performance in front of Test Track while it was closed for refurbishment. I'm very curious about that.
Well, thank you all for listening. We appreciate you. Tell a friend about the podcast. Tell somebody you know who loves Disney about the podcast. Anything you can do.
And tell your enemies about it too.
Yes, also enemies, preferably if they love Disney. But, we'll, like I said before, we'll take anyone. We'll take anyone.
Hey, guess what? We didn't have to thank anybody this episode for helping us through our technical problems, because finally we had no technical problems.
I mean, technically we did have a technical problem, but because of Julian's help previously, we were able to solve it independently. So
our unpaid intern strikes again.
Yes. But we do have to thank everybody for listening and making it this far into the episode, and we will chat with y'all next time.
See you later. Zoom zoom.